the Be the Light Crown Edition podcast. I'm Hannah Frey, your host and pageant queen extraordinaire. Fun fact, while most people are resistant to change, I'm excited by it. So this podcast is designed to allow me to be the light for others. By sharing my experiences across countless topics where I demolished my fears, prejudice, expectations, and rebuilt brick by brick. My hope is I can encourage you to seek knowledge, implement change, and above all, trust in God. So let's get to it. It's time for some you time. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Be the Light Crown Edition podcast. Very excited that you're here today because we get to talk about one of my favorite things, which is pageants. But we're going to talk about pageantry in the light of hobbies and why hobbies are important and how you can find your hobbies and find growth and value in hobbies as well. So really excited to dig in here. I also get a lot of questions about pageantry, so I thought I would just kind of roll that in and answer some questions for those folks who have interest or haven't been with me since, I started doing pageants. So let's talk a little bit about my pageant journey, which essentially has been my number one hobby and my biggest hobby since high school. So I started off in high school doing cheerleading, so that was my main hobby, and that quickly turned into a friend of mine who was on the dance team suggesting that, hey, you have a prom dress and you can sing, because I was in choir, and I just think that you would be great at doing the county fair pageant. And at the time, of course, never even heard of pageants, had no interest in being in one. So Mythbuster, unfortunately, did not do pageants. As a little girl, I was not that little taller and tiaras girly, sorry to say. But so yeah, that was the first year that I entered. I want to say that was my sophomore year of high school. And I placed, I think I was third runner up, and that was it for me. It was like, that was the beginning and the end. I had such a thrill being on stage and performing, even though, no, I'm not a good singer whatsoever. I'm just an okay singer, and always picked like the most interesting country songs. I think each year I did a Taylor Swift song. I'm not really sure. So decided to compete again, and the next year I was, I think, second runner-up or something or another. And my final year, my senior year of high school, I think the summer going into my senior year, I was like, yes, I'm going to keep doing this. I love it. And that was the year that I finally won Miss Marion County 2010. So that was great. And that system, the fair system in general, is really about promoting your county fair for that week of the fair. So the pageant's usually at the beginning of the week, and then you are the representative for the whole week, handing out awards and singing the national anthem and doing all this fun stuff. So I just loved the sense of community that came with that. I remember just thinking how cool it was that I could give back in that way. And then that following summer, you would go and compete at the state level. So there would be a representative from every county of the state competing for that. So I didn't place at state. I really wasn't very good, y'all, for being honest. So that was it. And, then I became recruited for the next town over, which was Hannibal, Missouri. Okay. I was recruited for the Miss Hannibal, Miss America organization local pageant. And at the time, it was still a pageant and not a scholarship competition. We were contestants, not candidates. So some things have changed with that organization. But so that was really presented as, hey, here's an opportunity to win. I want to say it was like $1,000 in scholarship money. And again, already had the wardrobe, had a talent, had to do evening gown, interview, felt like I was pretty good at talking to folks and was fairly educated. So yeah, why not? And that is what launched my journey in the Miss America organization. Okay, so just to kind of fast forward a bit, I didn't win that first pageant. I went on and I went to school at Mizzou in Columbia, Missouri, and went on to compete for Miss Columbia. And I remember this was one of my favorite pageants that I've ever won, because I was definitely not expected to win. Okay, I had this really horrendous haircut, these full bangs and like this bob cut, and just a dress that I know was not designer. It was definitely off the rack at like Macy's or something like that. Okay. And there were 3 other contestants, all of which were just beautiful individuals, very poised, had like pageant gowns. Okay, the total pageant look. I still am not really sure why I won that pageant. I know interview was scored really high. I know my talent was okay. I did kind of this like opera singing. I want to say it was actually a song from choir competition, which is even more hilarious. So anyway, so I won that pageant, and so I went to state that year. The next year went to state again as Miss Hannibal. So I was able to go back and win that pageant the following year, which was really cool. And then my final year of eligibility, because I was engaged and got married, so that therefore ended my eligibility. I was Miss East Central, which at the time was a new title associated with the Miss Audrain organization, Audrain County of Mexico, Missouri, which Mexico, Missouri is where Miss Missouri was held. So that was really cool, really special. Definitely had some great directors along the way, most notably, of course, Jean and Bev of the Audrain organization, just and everyone on that board, right? Just really the Dragoos, I mean, just all of the sponsors. Really love y'all. So thanks so much for that opportunity, and miss you guys. So each time that I won, right, I was earning scholarship money, and you additionally have the responsibility of recognizing or representing rather that community. So whether it's the county or the town, and you can do appearances other places, okay? So not saying that that's not allowed, but primarily like that's the community that you're involved in. And that is really what fostered, right? And just stoked the flame in my heart of service and getting to know people and networking and meeting little girls who were just so in awe of the shiny crown, and that's something that they wanted to do when they grew up. I mean, it was just really, really cool. So fast forward to, so I got married, so that ended my ability to compete in the Miss America organization. And then once I got married, which is great for me, right? Like pageants don't have to end. So now Mrs. pageants are even in some ways bigger, right? There are huge systems for Mrs., so married folks, whether you have kids or not. And that has been really a passion of mine ever since. So I know I competed in a really big national pageant in 2017. So that was before I had kids. And I, at that time, represented Indiana, the state of Indiana, at Mrs. United States. I did not place at that pageant. Okay. I went on to have kids and intermittently competed in some other systems. So I competed in, there was an Eco Earth pageant that I competed in. There was a captivating pageant that I competed in, which that was a whole nother story. At that pageant, kid you not, about to go on stage, Skylar calls me and tells me that our car had been stolen. So, like, literally on Labor Day weekend. Truly traumatizing. So that didn't win that pageant. I had done really well in interview until, stage time came. So, anywho. And then most notably, most recently, competing, of course, in the Nation of States system, which I did win. So I'm the current Mrs. Nation of States 2022. And then my wonderful director afforded me the opportunity to compete at Mrs. Universe Official in Australia. So if you've been following me or want to scroll back on my Instagram, you can find the details on my competition there. And that was definitely like peak for me, like so cool to travel to Australia. I was first runner-up, which was just, I didn't expect. I won a talent award, which again, we're kind of coming full circle because there's, the Hannah Runyon at the time, right, my maiden name, who in the fair pageant sang a Taylor Swift song. What was the one? The Romeo and Juliet one. No, I can't even think of the name of it. Anyway, so I sang that song for my talent, and then full circle to Mrs. Universe Official sang Hallelujah, okay, the pentatonics version. So just really cool to win a talent award after years of believing that I was a terrible singer. And again, still don't think I'm a good singer, but presentation is part of the key here. So anywho, so that's kind of the journey that I've had, and a lot of growth, a lot of learnings in between then, and a lot of different things that have motivated me in that journey. So I kind of made a list of things that where I would say these are the reasons why I competed. Okay, so definitely initially, like pre-kids, okay, where you are a little bit more self-centered in a way, right? Like you're really just focused on you. Maybe you have a boyfriend, but you're not married. You're not building this life, right? So at that time, it was primarily representing the community that I loved and was from, and the scholarship money for college, because I did have to put myself through college. So still have quite a bit of student debt. So that's great. But that did help, right? Having that scholarship money. I loved the appearances. I loved the opportunity to be in the parades and sign the autographs and MC other pageants and events and help, hold fundraisers that brought in, money for valuable causes. So loved doing that. And then subsequently the service, right? So a lot of times too, we're picking up trash, we're volunteering our time at the Humane Society, right? All of that just really was what drove me to continue competing in pageants and ultimately, this hobby that I had. Can't forget, right? There's also the style and the glamour and everything else that comes with pageantry. Like, let's not pretend I loved and still continue to love every bit of that. I love expressing myself in unique ways. I love the big flashy earrings and the colorful outfits and just the unique styles, and that continues to be a part of my brand even to this day. So that's definitely continued. So now that I've had kids though, right, and I've transitioned from like a Miss competitor to a Mrs. competitor, where it really is focused on married women who are kind of doing it all. They're the career woman or they're the amazing stay-at-home mom, and they have kids, and again, they're not always mothers, but oftentimes they are. They have a career, they have this big initiative that they work on, and it's just really cool. That this is why I love Mrs. Pageants, because it's like the epitome of she be doing it all. Okay, she is just killing it, and you really just meet some amazing, motivated and dedicated individuals. So it continued to be less of, hey, pay for college, right, and more of, this is just what I'm deciding to own as my hobby. Okay, and I think it's really important that we don't lose our identity when becoming a wife, when becoming a mother. Okay, there were things that you cared about before that, and I'm not saying that priorities shift, because they do. But if there is no part of you that you recognize from pre-kids, I wonder if that's something that's could bring you joy, right? Maybe if that's something that you're looking for. So, and again, if becoming a mom completes you and there is no part of you that wishes you still painted or did even did like soccer leagues, or whatever it was that was your hobby, and that's fine, to each their own. But I would wager to bet that a lot of us are kind of searching for that sense of self again, a way to just have a moment for us and explore our strengths. So I kind of want to go into from there, like what I learned and what continued to drive me in that hobby and why it continued to stay relevant in my life. So what I loved most about pageants, again, I mentioned a little bit briefly that I wasn't involved in sports other than, cheerleading, which debatable if it's a sport or not. In our case, we didn't do a ton of tumbling, so I err on the side of not as big of a sport. Sorry, fellow cheerleaders, but it was really more of a competition against yourself. And yes, I'm aware that there are other competitors on the stage. Okay, I'm aware that there's contestants 1 through 10 or 1 through 50 if it's a national pageant, and that you are quite technically being compared against one another. But there is nothing that you can do that's going to change how the judge perceives another contestant. Okay, and that's what's different about pageants. So, but you are in complete control, for the most part, of how the judge is going to perceive you, right? You're in control of your brand, of what you bring to the table in interview, of how you're presenting yourself and how you are modeling or walking on stage, okay? Of the colors and the fit of the gowns that you've chosen, how you respond to your on-stage question. You get to control all of that. So you really get to control that perception that the judges have, and you are just competing against yourself, and you're really trying to present the best version of yourself. It is not intended to be, hey, here's this fake person, don't know her, do not recognize her. No, it is supposed to be a journey to, these are the parts of me that I love, and I want those to shine, okay, that at that time on stage or throughout my year of service. So I love that so much about pageantry. Okay, so it's really a journey of personal growth in whatever it is that you want to grow in, right? Like that journey is different for everyone, and is again another reason why I love pageantry specifically. It helped me develop where my heart of service was. So again, maybe a hobby for you is, I enjoy knitting, and so maybe you want to make blankets or what have you for homeless, or for babies that are at the hospital in the NICU. Like, there's a lot of ways that you can find your passion and your hobby and marry those together in a way that can promote service, because ultimately we are called to serve others, right? Just as we're expected to. So it helped me find my heart for service, and a lot of times that's a lot of different things, right? But ultimately, what I have found just in the last year, y'all, which again, I'm 31 and I have been doing pageants since I was 15 or 16. So, yeah, I think that's right. Wow. And I have just recently learned that what I've been really working towards all this time is a way to help others discover themselves in the way that I have. And that is where this podcast has come about, and the whole definition of be the light, right? I want to help encourage others and be that light for others so that you can be the light for others yourself. So anyway, help me find my heart of service. And let's not forget like some of the practical skills, interview skills. Y'all, I have gotten every job I have ever had an interview for, like 9 times out of 10. I think there's one job here recently that I applied to where I was in the final 2 and they actually just ghosted me. So I never heard back from them. So that's fine. But the interview skills, the ability to talk to strangers, the ability to negotiate on my family's behalf, this ability to run this podcast, right? And for 9 times out of 10, one take wonder. Okay, I may stumble over my words a little bit. I may pause, but I literally am just recording this once and that's it. So y'all get the real, raw, for the most part, unedited version of me. And I have those abilities because of the interview skills that I gained through pageant interviews. And I love that so much. And then networking. Okay, so I have met some of the most amazing women that are my friends that I speak to almost daily, that encourage me, that support me from afar, right? I would borderline say that I have a friend from pageantry in every state and in oftentimes many other countries as well. So that is just really cool to say. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about, so I've talked about my hobby, right, which is pageantry. And I did want to give you guys a little bit of the history and the why for me and what I've learned from that. And I want you to find ways to take all that information and apply it to yourself. So let's dive into first finding the light, okay? So for those of you who don't have a hobby, right? Or whenever I mentioned that you've kind of lost yourself a little bit after becoming a wife or being married, or maybe neither of those things. Maybe you've just moved and you've lost your tribe, or maybe you needed to start over for other reasons and you're like, I don't even know where to start. Let me help you. Okay. So here's how you're going to find the light. Make a list of what brings you joy. And I'm not saying that it has to be really concise at this point, but if it's simply, I really like whenever I can make a meal, not whenever my kids are pulling on my legs and I'm being rushed, whenever I those rare opportunities where nobody's home and I get to explore with a new recipe. Okay, maybe that's what brings you joy. Or maybe it's, I really don't know, but I do feel my best when I'm outside and I love going for walks in my neighborhood. Great. Okay, it doesn't have to be a direct lineage to or drawing a line to like a defined hobby quite yet. Just what makes you happy? What brings you joy? Okay. Now, next to each of those, I want you to prioritize and outline what gets in the way of you doing those things. Okay. So if you had a list of lots of things that bring you joy, maybe find a way to number it 1 through 5. Like, this is my absolutely favorite thing to do, or maybe there's a tie between a few, but you can adjust those a bit to have those priorities. And then I want you to, next to that, outline what gets in the way, right? So I use the cooking example because that speaks to my heart, right? I love to cook. I actually mentioned today on my stories that it was a mental health day, so I'm off from work today, which is really great. And of course, I'm here recording a podcast for y'all because I love it. I enjoy this, right? This isn't work for me. It's one of my new hobbies, I suppose. And I love to cook, okay? I love to make meals and try new recipes. Not a good baker, okay? Because I'm not precise and I'm not patient, but I do love to cook. And I cook with my heart and not my measuring cup, as my mama taught me. But anyway, I wanted to go to Trader Joe's because I follow these accounts on Instagram where they're always posting these amazing meals from these things that they buy at Trader Joe's. And I was like, you know what? I have all the time in the world to go research, find the things that I want, come home and make a meal that is something new that we've never had before. Okay, so that's an example. But what gets in the way oftentimes? Trader Joe's is like a half mile away, or 30 minutes away. So it's hard to get there. I am oftentimes rushed for dinner, okay, because my workday ends at 3:30. I have to leave my house by 4:15. I've got 45 minutes to get my life together and cook dinner and whatever else I put off for the day. 3, things are expensive. Grocery bills are higher than ever. Okay, so I'm fearful of like wasting food. So that might just be an example of what you might write out in terms of what's getting in the way. So from there, your final point is going to be, now that we kind of know and we have visualized, I know what brings me joy and I know what could get in the way. Then you can start to brainstorm, well, how can I remove those, or how can I just make that a priority one time a week? So the next point is committing to 1 hour a week to something that brings you joy. We're not calling it a hobby yet, okay? If you want to call it a hobby because you know that's what I'm going to pick, great. But I would just love for you to find a way to shift around priorities. We've all got however many hours in the day, right? We all have the same God-given 24 hours of a day. And I promise you, if you look hard enough, there will be a way to shift things around, to prioritize that hobby or whatever it is that's bringing you joy for an hour a week. Maybe for you, you have to break it up into 2 half-hour sessions. Fine. Okay, maybe it's 15 minutes a day, like really, truly whatever you can get in. And I just want you to start there. And that should help you also to realize if you had prioritized those the way that you want to. Okay. What if you're like, girl, I know my hobbies. Like, I know what brings me joy. I just, just need to kind of fine tune this a bit. All right, let's talk about being the light. So I want you to list out your top 3 hobbies. Okay. And again, in order. So 1 being your most favorite, 3 being your least favorite, but we love them all. Okay. How can you grow in each of those? That's what I want you to brainstorm. So for me, my top hobby is pageantry, and that's because I do love it the most. It encompasses a lot of other things that I love, right? Because you could say that some of my other hobbies include like the service that comes from pageantry, like including this podcast. You could say it's the style aspect, so getting new clothes and styling new clothes and all the photo shoots and the glam, okay? So anywho, how can you grow in those things? And an example for me is I love pageantry so much, and that's something I shared with my sister-in-law. So very early on, she started picking up pageants, and for what it's worth, she's way better than I ever was. So if you know my sister Juliana, my sister-in-law, she's amazing. She competes in the Miss America organization. She started as a teen and is now a Miss, and she's just a rock star. So we love to see it. And that's one way that I kind of grew is sharing that with family. Okay. Another way that I can grow in pageantry is just learning more. So I took on a new coach. I'm doing a pageant academy course, which I love so much. And I hired a hair and makeup artist, Liz Everett Glam. Hey, girl. I'm just like really excited to learn new skills and just, again, continue growing in pageantry. So how can you grow in your hobbies? I want you to write that down. The next thing I want you to think about is what's the next level for each of those, and is it something that you want? So I want you to first write down the level. Don't worry about it. Be like, but that's not what I want. That's fine. Let's just recognize it and understand that, like, if you are feeling stagnant in your hobbies and you know what the next step is and it's not something you want, maybe it's time to deprioritize that hobby or find a new one, or maybe we come up with new ways that we can level up. So a great example would be, I love to cook, right? A level up might be cooking a homemade meal every night, or maybe even further leveling up might be showing others how to cook, like cooking classes, or sharing my skills on social media. Or maybe another level up could be taking a formal cooking class to hone my skills. And let me say that I considered all of those things, and I don't love it that much. Okay, like I love the level that I'm at with cooking, and maybe one day that'll change, but like I'm good where I'm at. So I prioritize pageantry above that. Okay, so that's the exercise for you. And the last thing is always, especially, we're being the light for others, right? I want you to share your hobbies with others. Folks do want to see what you're up to. I love it so much when I see folks just try new things, especially if it didn't go well. Who cares? You learned from it. Others are going to learn from it. Please feel empowered to share your journey, not just the end destination. And I think that's one of the problems that in general social media has, is that it's a highlights reel. And something that you will find, and I hope you continue to keep me honest with this about, is that I post the beginning, the middle, and the end. And it's not just a highlights reel. It's, hey, this was hard and this didn't work. Or I was really excited about this and then it fell through. Okay. That's real life. That is truly what folks are going through, and that's okay. All right. So I hope that was helpful. I was really excited today to decide to speak about pageantry and hobbies. I just really believe that there's such a good thing and a blessing for many of us, keeping in mind that, of course, there are priorities in everyone's lives, and wherever this may fit in, it doesn't mean that it has to fit in nowhere, right? We just want it to fit in somewhere. So I want to go ahead and close in prayer, and then we'll move on to the next episode. Dear God, thank you so much again for the opportunity to share the light that you have shown in my journey in pageantry. And I know I couldn't even share all of the wonderful ways in which the people I met and the places I've gone and the skills that I've learned have just blessed me infinitely. And I just thank you ultimately for everything that you've done for me and for opening those doors and closing some doors that I wasn't meant to walk through. And I just hope that for those who are listening, for those who are interested in finding a hobby that suits them, that you will do the same, that they will look to you, Lord, for guidance, that they will listen to their Holy Spirit when it comes to what they should pursue and how they should prioritize that. Of course, keeping in mind that ultimately everything that we do should honor you, God, and should please you. So thank you so much. We love you so much. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. Thanks, everyone. Until next time.